Grand day, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. What a pleasure to be here. My name is Chase Steele Gray. If you're just joining us for the first time, thank you so much for being here. We are going to have a great show today. But before we do, I'm going to start us off with a joke, and we'll see where we go with it. Actually, it's just a little story joke. A woman walks into a bookstore, and she says, "Can you please show me the book on how to become royalty?" And the woman in the bookstore says, "Well, give me a title." She goes, "That's it." Roll that tape. Let's get it going.
That's good.
That's terrible. Awesome.
Well. We are back again on the Daily Huddle. I am Chase Steele Gray. I will be with you today with wonderful Giovanni as well. And of course, we have a special guest today. His name is Daniel Johnson, one of my favorite people on the earth. I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. Not just saying that. He really, really is. But before we get started, I want to ask a couple questions to our studio audience before we get it going. Tara Heaton, how are you today?
How am I today? I am the way I say I am. And today I have to say that I am seeking peace.
Seeking peace. I like that. Farida.
Hi, good morning, Chase.
Grand day to you. Nice to see you. That's bright color.
Yeah.
Love it. I want to ask you, whoa, I almost asked you another question. I want to ask you, how are you and who are you going to hug today?
Oh, I am good. I am me. And who am I going to hug today? I'm going to hug me. I'm going to hug myself today. I love myself.
What is that, Giovanni? I love it. I think Giovanni was sent here to throw me off today a little bit. I like it. Thank you, Farida. I appreciate you. Look, so let's get right into it. We're going to have some good time today with Daniel Johnson. He's a great friend of mine. And man, if I could have recordings of the conversations I've had with Daniel over the years, it would top every piece of content that I've seen as far as like communication between two people and the topics. Daniel is a husband. He's an entrepreneur. He's a cook. He's a vocalist. He's a creative coach. He's a consultant. I mean, man, it is an amazing thing, really, to have a friendship like Daniel, because I was reading the bio on him, and it says that he works to amplify the transparency in your daily communication, right? And I thought that's what he does to me. So if you haven't read that bio, please read it a little deeper, because he's my good friend. I just figured, man, I'm just going to go right into it with him because he is just an amazing, the word agitator was the word that we used, right? And it says that he has the knack for saying the one thing that will piss you off enough just to get you to move forward to the thing that you want or you deeply trust within yourself. So, hey, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I say this very lovingly. I've had many conversations with Daniels where I left a little upset because he exposed some stuff in me. Dang it, Daniel, dang it. So without further ado, please welcome to the Daily Huddle, Mr. Daniel Johnson. Yes.
Thank you, my man.
And the question of the day is, are you being heard? Are you being heard? Daniel, please unpack that for us just a little bit, please.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for inviting me and welcoming me here. And you're my man. You're my man. I asked that question a lot because I think, let me say it this way. So my church, the church community that I, belonged to for a long time, had this, our motto, our sort of slogan was seen, heard, known, and loved. And the reason I always loved that was because, first of all, there's a part of that was echoed in what I was doing. But I think that we miss a lot, that not only is the way that we are loved, one of the ways that we're loved, being heard, but another one of the ways that we're loved, or that we love others, is by hearing them. And I think it's important to ask yourself that question, because if you are truly loving people in your life, then it's important that you're heard. I think a lot of times we take for granted that, it's better to be silent. And really what we're saying is that it's safer. It's safer. We won't take a chance on offending someone. But think about what you just said, that you left a lot of our conversations a little upset, a little ruffled. And I've always felt that it was more important to me to die and leave the planet having known that I said everything that was inside me to say, so that the people whose lives I was in, who were in my life, who I professed to love, knew that I loved them, knew that I came all the time with every bit of me that I had. One of the things that I talk about a lot is this idea of risk, and that we are afraid to risk offending. We're afraid to risk saying the wrong thing because we don't want to distance people. But what we end up doing is we don't close the gap between us. There's always distance between you and another person.
Right.
Right? The best way to close that distance is to actually pursue that relationship. And we don't pursue, we just try to stay and hold steady where we are. Well, we're not offending, but we're not really getting closer either. So when I ask, are you being heard? Are the people in your life hearing? Are you giving them an opportunity to hear you? Are you speaking to them? Are you asking the hard questions? Are you saying the things that are difficult to say? Are you giving them an opportunity to challenge you? Because maybe I say something, and I'll tell you a story. When I worked on cruise ships, Chase, you remember there was a group of guys that I ran around ship with all the time. We did songs, and I did a contract once. We weren't on the ship together, but I did a contract, and there was I was the only heterosexual male in this group of four. And at the time I was 23, 24 years old. And I was used to saying things, just colloquial things that didn't mean anything to me other than the colloquial intention behind it. And I had a habit of saying, "That's so gay." I would say, "That's so gay." And
oh my God.
One of the guys said to me one day, and I said it all the time. One of the guys said to me, "Man, would you stop saying that?"
Right.
And I said, what? I just, it is, it's weird, and he goes, "Well, imagine if I said, 'Man, that's so black.'" And, I know we've heard similar illustrations before, but to have that interaction with someone was really amazing for me, because it supports what I'm saying, that when you're not afraid to have a confrontation with someone, then you step into a situation where you can be vulnerable. And we have to be receptive to what's going to come from that. So maybe you say something that's offensive, or maybe you ask a question that's difficult.
Right.
Being wrong, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. The problem is that when you're so afraid of being wrong, you're so proud that, and you always want to come off like you're good, that you don't put yourself in a situation to be corrected. And when I say corrected, I mean, we talk about this with my son, Levi. A correction just means a change in direction, a change in course. We're triggered when I say the word correction, people get all, it's so you get a little nervous because, wait a minute, you don't talk like to an adult like that, or, oh, wait, we don't correct our kids. But a correction is just a change in course. Right. I think it's a nautical term, right?
Back to the ships again.
Yeah. So are you being heard?
I I want to just ask you a few rapid fire questions because I know you and I know you can talk the entire time and everyone will be wildly happy with all your content. So I just want to break it up right now because I want them to get a little piece of different directions. So for you as a person who is intelligent, well-rounded, many skills, married with a beautiful child, do you feel like your particular way of communicating gives you a very specific group of people that either gravitate to you or choose to hang out with you? Because you're a very direct person. I don't see everyone just going, hey, let's hang out, Daniel. Like certain people are going to go, if I say this to Daniel, he's going to expose me. He's going to say something to me that's going to make me work. And I don't want that. Like, do you feel that or?
No, that's a good question. I do think that happens, but I used to be very concerned with drawing people to me and not repelling them. But this is another way that I think it's important to use your voice. And I should say too, that I don't just mean going out and spraying everything everywhere. That's not what I'm talking about. Because it could be heard that way. But I think I stopped preoccupying myself with drawing people to me, and I just accepted that whoever it was that God wanted to put in my path, if it was meant for us to connect, that would happen.
Right.
And, you know, whoever talked about anything like, you know, we hear about relationship attachment, you know, and if you're attached to the outcome of what's going to happen in a relationship, then you will hide yourself. You know, you won't show up as everything that you are. And when you don't show up as everything you are, you don't give the other person an opportunity to be and become everything they could be.
Right. And do you feel in your current relationship, because I know your wife and she's a very different person than you. We've talked about this so many times. Yeah. And in the vein of our topic, are you being heard? In your interaction with her, and I've seen maybe a couple times you interacting with her because we haven't all been together so many times, but in that interaction, in your marriage thus far, do you feel like you're getting like a constant course on being on being heard or allowing her to be heard? Do you feel like you're doing like this tug of war back and forth to get the balance? Is that where you're at with that?
Yeah, man. And so my wife, she has a difficult time with me. For sure.
He put it right on the table. Wow.
Yeah, she has a difficult time. But I have a difficult time too. And the reason that's so valuable is because, you know, I'll tell anybody, you know, my relationship with my wife, it helps me, you know, because whereas a person like me leans to the pole of not just being heard, but maybe saying too much sometimes, or maybe not knowing the right time to say something, or not the right time, but a useful time to say something, or to ask a question, or just other questions that exist, you know, that are there in that sphere that are floating around that you might not necessarily grab onto. The relationship is so good to me because I see so many different ways or so many different things that come up in my interaction with other people, with clients, etc. And because of the context of our relationship, it's sort of, there's an illicit amount of compassion, right? That's there. And there's also this tendency that I'm fighting all the time with that. So I have to, it's a dance, right? But it shows me these other dance steps that I wouldn't have access to in other relationships, that would not draw that out of me. Because there is, when you are speaking and when you are listening, there's a degree of compassion that you have to have. And, you know, if you're just talking, then you don't really tap into that, you know?
Right, it's true. They always say, right? Are you listening or are you waiting for a chance to speak?
Yeah.
I've heard so many people say that. And I'm like, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
And with you, and just for the benefit of everyone here listening, could you capsulize this topic and give everyone one or two suggestions on how to make others feel heard a little better? Like if you were writing a book on this or giving a full seminar, what would you say? What's a good thing to
So I'm gonna say that, well, I don't know that I have any suggestions on that. And the reason is because I think that our culture puts too much pressure or expectation on us to make others feel heard.
right.
The fact is, I can give you all kinds of suggestions, and you can go up to just the right person who does not feel heard with any of those things that you try. Right?
It's so true.
Yeah, I think it's less about making people feel heard and more about hearing people. Like, to me, if you show up in a relationship, we talk about mirrors, right? You smile. It's this psychological. When you walk down the street, you smile at somebody, they're usually going to smile back. Right. It's this thing that we do. Right. And when you show up vulnerable and transparent in a relationship, it gives another person permission to do that, right? You said something interesting a second ago. Oh man, I don't know, Daniel, if I say this, he's going to test me, or he's going to. So that person knows what to expect from me. But so the flip side of that is not just being heard, but being willing to listen. So if you show up that way, and you've given another person this platform, you've said, hey, this is how I'm going to be. And I just want you to know this is how I'm going to be. This is who I, this is what you see is what you get. This is how I'm going to show up. Then you give them permission to do that. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it, but it can't change who I am. It can't change who I am. So, I realize that's not giving anybody a tactic or, a tactics or a strategy. But I think that the strategy that I would have is just the mind frame that we somehow make others feel anything. We can't be responsible for that, and it's difficult to anticipate it. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, and it's going to be a dynamic. It's a dynamic answer. It's gonna depend on where you are. Who you're talking to, you're standing in front of.
It is, and I want to say, just to piggyback on that, and this I find more and more. I have an actual book on listening that I've been reading, and I want to become a better listener. So a couple of conversations I've had over the last month or so, I'm just quiet, and the person's and then they go, "Hello?" I go, "Yeah," and you know what it is, right? They're not used to being heard. Yeah, they're like, "You didn't interrupt me. You didn't say anything. You just." I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Oh, okay. And it makes them nervous. They don't know what to do. Like, oh, I'm being heard. Oh my God, I'm being heard. This is great, right? It's so powerful. It happened to me 3 or 4 times this month. Case, are you there? Yeah, I'm right here. Go ahead. Yeah. Right? So that also is very interesting. And I think as a culture, we just all need to be a little more aware around this, that people have something to say. We're all going through things. We're all on a ride. We all have times when we've just been popped down. Like, no, you're not talking. I'm talking. It's like, whoa, okay, Also, well, you know what? I'm not even going to go into that. I want to get into some questions because I know people probably have a lot of great questions. And then maybe we can come back for a second. Gio, you have your hand up.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, this has been really great, man. Daniel, you're just awesome, man. One of the things that I love that you just said was, well, I don't really want to give you a tip or a strategy. It's not about that. It's less about, I think you said something like, it's less about trying to have people be heard and more about hearing them. That was profound. That was really, really profound.
Totally.
And I wanted to ask you a question and see what your thoughts are. You said you kind of slipped something as you were speaking, as you were creating a point. It kind of slipped from you, but I want to go back to it and get a little more thoughts on that. You said something about but you said two things that I really love. One of them was, if you're attached to the outcome, then it is likely that you're going to be hiding. That's really just profound. Like, what am I attached to that then I would stop listening? Right. But the one that I wanted to ask you is, when do you said something like, maybe it wasn't the right moment to talk, or then you said maybe the useful one. Yeah. What is the difference to you between the right time and the useful time to say something?
Mhm.
What would you say?
Yeah. So one of the very first things that I talk to people about in terms of relationship, and when I say relationship, I don't just mean relationship with others, but I mean relationship with yourself, is this idea of cause. And the question of, what is the cause? Like, what is my cause here? And in this moment, what am I trying to accomplish in this interaction? Right. And so with my wife, I'm always trying to get closer to her. I'm never wanting to, when we have a disagreement or a fight, I hate the way that feels. I hate the way it feels to feel distance between us. And I want to close that distance. I don't want to experience that for very long. I have learned that it's okay to live in that for a little while, because neither of us is going anywhere. So there's a with time, there's a degree of trust that's been earned, that, okay, so neither of us is going where we're upset, but we're gonna close this distance eventually. When I say what's useful, what I mean is, what is it that is useful right now to the cause that I'm trying to accomplish? So if I want to draw closer to my wife, then there's certain things that I'm gonna, if I want to broach a topic, I'm gonna broach it a certain way. Or I'm gonna ask this question before I ask that. I want to make sure I understand this before I ask that. And this kind of circles into the question that Chase asked about how to make someone feel heard. One of the reasons that I ask so many questions is because that's one of the ways that I give people an opportunity to be heard. I ask a lot of questions. So let me ask you, Gio, when you asked me about usefulness, and I told you just now about cause, think to an interaction that you had recently that didn't go the way that you would wish that it had gone. Right.
I think what I'm hearing, without necessarily interacting a lot with you, I want to give a lot of space for other people to ask you questions too. And what I'm hearing in what you're saying that I really like is, and I find that it might be difficult in a moment of a conversation, but what I really like is to ask myself, before I speak, what am I committed to? What is the commitment really in this relationship, or in whatever relationship is? What is the commitment? And based on answering myself that question, then I can see I can get a sense of what's going to come out of my mouth. Is it useful or not against that commitment? Rather than worrying about, is this the right time to say it or not? More like, is this useful for the commitment I have in this relationship? And if it's not useful, it may not be the right time. If it's not useful, that's what I'm hearing you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's well put. I think that the flip side too of cause for me in these conversations is not just, it's not just what am I trying to cause, but it's also taking responsibility that we are causing most things. Right? It's an awareness of that this experience that we're going to have, I'm going to be a part of the cause of it. You know what I mean? The cause of whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, that's quite of a self-awareness. What am I going to cause here? Yeah, that takes something, I would say, for most of us to be responsible for it.
Yeah.
What am I
absolutely.
gonna cause here? My goodness. And even that, it can be a projection, right? Because sometimes we already are thinking. I've had several conversations with people who have been 90% the same way every time. And this one time I say something, they go to the 10%. And I thought I had it. I thought I had it right in my hand to make a comfortable landing strip for them. Did not work, right? So,
but it's okay when it doesn't work. You know,
it's
you
okay,
just keep going. You know, you keep going. I've been on these calls and I've heard people say, "Hey, I want to stop for any questions. I don't mean to. I could ramble forever, so I'm sorry to just keep talking."
Oh, this is a tight piece of time. I think we could be an hour and the show would be even more awesome because we would fill all the time up, right? Does anyone else have any question? Oh, before I go forward, I want to give a special shout out to my boy Clark Maddox. He's been coming on the call for a few times, and I'm so happy that he's here. I see him there, and I bring only the cream of the crop of my friends on this call. So he's there listening, and I just want to give a special shout out to Clark Maddox from Tejas in the house. Anyone else? Any other questions? I'm missing my boy Sorrel today. Sorrel. Special shout out to Sorrel. So really, really great. Gio, how are we looking on time? I don't know if I have the right time. Oh, okay.
We have a few more minutes, 3 more minutes or so. In the meantime, while somebody maybe raises their hand, I like to continue the conversation with Daniel.
I know, it's good, right? It's good stuff. I know.
So kind of going inside of that context, one of the things that I heard you were causing or projecting in some degree in your speaking was that there's a certain commitment you have about the people that come into your life. And Chase was saying, you know, if I'm in Daniel's circle, he is going to be as authentic as he can be. And so what I also hear that you do is that you are very artful. You dance really well in having people in your life going to a vulnerable state without necessarily making them feel bad. Hence, you know, you have a relationship with Chase. How do you dance with that? How do you say, you know, if we're together in this moment, there's got to be a reason. How do you dance between I've got to be authentic and share what's there for me to share without just vomiting, like you said, just saying whatever? How do you dance with that?
I think the first thing is, you know, just being willing to get on the floor. It's you know, I don't want to paint myself as this expert dancer, you know, to keep going with the analogy. I think though that many of us, like if you've ever seen a person dance and they're just free form dancing, right? You get so much joy out of watching that because their body is just expressing. It's just expressing what's there. And it's not that we don't admire when someone is performing something more technical, but I think that we have been acculturated to perform in our relationships, right? So we perform technical dance steps in our relationships. And when a moment happens that we're not expecting, we don't know what step to take. Like, oh, hey, hang on, that's not the way the salsa goes, or that's not the way, you know, that's not the way the robot's done or whatever. So it's for me, being willing to get on the floor. And when Chase said a second ago, 90% and 10%, like sometimes you miss. Sometimes I do vomit. Sometimes I do say something that, oh, wait a minute, I should have. But it's being willing to step into the humility of that moment, of that learning experience, and say, oh, okay, obviously I said something that offended you, or can you tell me what that was? It's difficult in our state of culture, because not a lot of people, the minute that you say something that's offensive, they make the decision to resent you and go the other way. That's why I said that I've become less attached to what happens with people where that's concerned. I become more artful with it by the experience of doing it, but most of us won't do that. You know, we won't, an artist, very few artists are born, you know, like you're born with the seed of art, of artfulness, but it's the time that expands the capacity for expressing that artfulness, you know, and most of us won't, we get acculturated to navigate relationships a certain way, to follow certain rules, to ask certain questions, like you asked, not to put you on Front Street here, but when people, you know, how can I make you feel? Like, you know, but we don't ask other people that question. We ask ourselves that question, which is very presumptuous. You know, how can I make this person feel something is a very presumptuous question. I think it's more important to ask, how does it feel to you that I just said that? You know, right now in the moment, how did that feel?
Man, that's powerful. That's really powerful.
Thank you, Daniel.
Gio, goodness gracious, Gio. We have to have another half hour or hour on this. This is a great topic. It's a great topic. Wow. This has been really powerful. Thank you, Daniel, for being on the call. Our special guest, Daniel Johnson Baryshnikov.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
But before we go, I just want to make sure that we go over our favorite tenets that we always exercise on the call. And that, of course, is to love, laugh out loud, stress less, eat mostly plant-based, give as much as you can. Please get that sleep. Please, more sleep really changes everything. Of course, move your body intently and consistently throughout the day. And last but not least, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I appreciate being here. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much, Giovanni. And it's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you all again, hopefully next Tuesday, and be well in your day.
Great stuff,
One
guys.
love, guys.
Thanks, Daniel.
Bye.
Yay.
Thank
One love,
you.
guys. One love.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
No